which is cool. Which is cool, but like it ain't. We're live. What's up, Jennifer Lacy?
Good morning. How are you? Yeah,
Oh my
I've got to
goodness.
watch like the computer because we'll just be talking and you just push the live button. And I don't even know.
We just gotta, hit the button. There's a delay.
Yeah,
Never really
in
know
the middle
what's
of a
gonna happen.
conversation.
Yep.
How
How
are
are
you
you?
this morning?
I'm good. I've been up since like 4.
Okay.
Um, I couldn't. Rather, I shouldn't say I couldn't. I got up and I'm like, okay, I'm wide awake. Sometimes I wake up. It's like, yeah, I can loaf around for a little bit longer. Today
Your
wasn't
brain was
one of
going.
the. Yeah, like okay, let's go. Let's get to work. Uh, and then it's like, okay, we got a live stream going on, so
Yes.
that's gonna be awesome. All right, folks. Miss Sarah, see, it's doing it again. Sarah, how you doing, girl? I can see you on my phone, but you're not coming through the StreamYard. So, folks, little bit of housekeeping for everybody that's coming in through the Omniverse. One, let us know you're here. Let us know where you're coming in from. Two, if you're coming in, I'm doing a little bit of research. I did this on a previous live stream. If you would, leave in the comments if you're coming in like on your phone or if you're coming in on your laptop, because we think, particularly on LinkedIn, there's some funkiness where your comments won't come through the feed. And so I won't be able to see your comments and flash them up on the screen. That doesn't mean we don't love you. We absolutely love you. They're just not feeding through. And the theory is that it's because you're either on the laptop or on your phone. So right now I could see Buddy's here. Buddy, good morning. Dang it. And then we got Andre. What's up, on coming in from the phone? Fantastic.
Okay.
Oh, here's Sarah. She says
Through the app. Okay.
through the app. What is that? Is there a difference?
There's an app on, yeah, you can do the LinkedIn app, which is the one I use on my phone. Instead of doing the internet, you're just on the app. So that's good to know. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful data there for us.
Yes.
You remember this guy?
I do. Good morning, Joseph.
Joseph, what's up, man? We got to hang out on Wednesday or Thursday. That was freaking awesome. We brought the eight. Man, we got all kinds of people coming in. Mr.
Good
Paul,
morning.
how you doing, Paul? Coming in from Botswana. Serious. Mr. Jim Guntorius coming in on the laptop. He doesn't see any comments.
Okay, so we see you, Jim.
Yeah, we see you, Jim. Now, Mr. Jim, here's something, or not just Jim, but everybody else. Mm-hmm. There's some funkiness for some reason. If you're on the phone or you're on a laptop, you can't see all the comments. I don't know what that is. Another option is to go to the YouTube and you can engage from there. Again, appreciate your patience and love all the comments and stuff that y'all are going to be contributing today. So we got Mr. Vince coming in from YouTube land, coming in from the Deuce Dime right here on his iPhone. Got LinkedIn user. I think that's Amy. Yep, Amy Campbell.
Amy, yes.
Oh, we got to hang out with her. Was that awesome or what?
Yes. Jen? Oh my gosh, that was the last time we were on a live stream. Yes.
And the volume was jacked up. I should have used the mic. I
figured it out.
From now on, we got to use the mic because the space was big, so there was like some wonky like feedback. Joseph says we're all funky. Yes, sir. You sure are. Then Miss Tanya, how you doing, Tanya? Coming in from Cole, Virginia. She is on her phone. Fantastic. Y'all keep it coming. Oh wait, hold on. Sarah's giving us more data. She's coming in through Jesse's page. Yeah. So, thank you, Sarah. Actually, that's a great point. So we're live streaming on LinkedIn via my personal profile and Jennifer's personal profile, and so that splits the comments on your phone. But you still get to see and hear us, so you can jump around and have some fun. Thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
And actually, I got to give Sarah some more credit because on her live stream, Bring Out Your Badass Self, she was helping people understand, like, hey, if it's funky on LinkedIn, go to YouTube. And so I stole that practice from her so that we can make sure we get the connectivity and interaction that we're all looking for.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah, totally. Mr. Joe, oh no, where'd it go? James, Mr. James coming in.
Good morning.
From Colorado.
He just dropped a at least I saw it this morning. He and Adam did one on his podcast. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did that hit today?
I saw the snippet this morning that he dropped with he and Adam.
Oh, not you and Adam, him and Adam.
No, yeah, he and Adam. Sorry. Yes.
Got it. I heard me. My bad. Awesome. And then we got Steve Martin coming in from the Connect, NoBS Chief Marketeer. So Jen, I mean, what I showed up like
First of all, we got it, but we have one more housekeeping thing that we have to do because before we get into the topic, the blue hearts. So I know you have that. They're going to pull that up. So those of you that are out there, I see a lot of familiar faces. I also see some people that maybe we haven't seen before. You've been out there, but you finally put the fingers to the keyboard or put your thumbs on the phone and you actually typed and added to the conversation. So we love you that are out there. And I know you're out there because I heard from 2 of you this week that you're listening and paying attention, and we love you and we appreciate you tuning in. And those of you that are willing to take a little bit of a jump, and I see you today, actually contributing and telling us where you're from on the phone, things like that. If this is the first time that you've done that, if you can drop a blue heart in the comments, there's a reason. We're not going to come stalk you, but there's a reason. If you will put a blue heart there, that lets us know that, hey, you've just jumped in. And we have an amazing tribe that is built on community, built on connection. And as soon as they see the blue heart, they're like, that's somebody I got to connect to. And so they will jump in, they will come follow your stuff. They will support your content and all of that. And so, but we don't know unless you put the blue heart. And so we don't have to come find you. So if you'll drop a blue heart, you can either write blue heart or you can right click and go to emojis and put the blue heart in there. And then our tribe can then come and connect with you. Okay.
And we will find you.
Yes.
Awesome sauce. We got Miss Christine Fuentes coming in as LinkedIn user.
Yes.
She says, had to update the app. That's
maybe some updates.
Yeah. So folks, because that was happening, right? I was watching some live streams. I was watching Sarah's, and I wanted to comment, but because I wanted to get like a check mark for my attendance. I didn't want to get in trouble because I still owe her some feedback. Anyways. But it wouldn't let me do it. And now all of a sudden it's letting me do it. So if there's an app, maybe you got to update your app. If you're on your phone and it doesn't let you leave comments, there's some funkiness. Thank you for that nugget, Miss Christine.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Who else we got here? Comments working on LinkedIn. Okay, everybody's coming through. Love it. Yeah, so Sarah's pointed it out. She can see Lance's comments, but I can't see them. All right, well, still, let's just keep chatting it up.
Keep helping each other, support each other.
Yeah. And we know, Jen, you and I know all too well that there's like 2 shows going on. One, you and I up here, and then everybody supporting and interacting each other in the chat.
Yes.
So love that. Super, super, super awesome.
Okay.
So I guess we have a topic to discuss.
We do. And so I'm going to let you describe it because we sometimes have like, okay, after the show, after the after party, we like jump in and we're like, okay, here's our next topic. And then sometimes we have like this master conversation that you go, okay, there's our next 4 topics. And so this happens to be one of those 4 that we kind of have a theme. And then you're like, okay, I think I know what the next couple are. And you kind of put the visual together and you named it. So if you can kind of talk through, why did we choose this topic today?
Yeah, it's absolutely. So I can't remember which one it was, but we had a conversation. And then in the after party, it was like, oh my God, there's this thing about feedback. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna use that word a couple more times, and then I ain't gonna use it the rest of the conversation. Because here's what bugged me is in that conversation, we were talking about all kinds of different things, right? Mm-hmm. The appropriate way to interact and add value during collaboration, the appropriate way to interact and add value in the heat of the moment, the appropriate way to interact and add value post-event. Mm-hmm. And we're calling all of it feedback, right? And then we did the reciprocal propulsion, mm-hmm. which that happened again. And I'm like, it's not the same. So I recognize that my brain is a little different than most people, which is probably good for everybody.
Yes.
but for me, I have to have very clear lines of what the hell we're talking about. So the last conversation, the intent was to talk about, in the space of collaboration, the appropriate type of dialogue is around input, contributing to the conversation, sharing your ideas, etc. So that's kind of prep, right? We're doing that before we get started. We're going to collaborate about a plan. We're going to brainstorm about ideas, whatever that is. Then it's like, let's go do the damn thing.
Okay.
And so what we're doing, how do we communicate, or what's the most effective way to communicate, or how do I communicate or see communication in the heat of the moment, is not feedback. And the easiest way for me to frame it is to call it performance conversations or corrective conversations, because I'm not, again, in Jesse land, feedback is this thing that I can take or leave.
Okay.
Right? It's a gift. Somebody's going to give me feedback. They're going to share their observations. Actually, I have another idea about framing feedback and applying the 8 ways to it, which we'll talk about that later. But what I want to talk about is like getting ahead or aligned in the heat of the moment, because right now, our audience, the tribe, the NoBS tribe out there, we're all professionals. Everybody's got tons of responsibility, tons of influence in the organizations they work with. And so many of the conversations that we have are like about performance, about execution, about delivering. And I've seen it over and over again where we soften the message by calling it feedback. I have some feedback for you. And it doesn't land. And so I want to just get explicit about, in the heat of the moment, what the hell is the appropriate type of communication to be having? What do you think, Jen?
Well, where it hit me is like that PDCA cycle. And like when we're planning and then doing and then studying and then adjusting, like there's not feedback throughout. Like the planning is your collaboration and you're getting input and what is the plan? And then the do is like, okay, we got to do it before the feedback can really be relevant. And so it's like, I think, and most of us are familiar with that in the space we work in, is that PDCA, like we plan it, that collaboration piece, we go do the dang thing. And then we study or we check it. And what does that look like? That's the place to where I think that a lot of that continuous improvement, those kind of that conversation happens. And sometimes we are giving feedback in the do instead of like, okay, let's put it out there. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And then let's go back and, okay, what worked, what didn't, what did we like? And just based on the way you explained it, it's like, okay, in that do piece. Yes. And then when we go to the check and the study piece, like, how are we communicating? How are we delivering, value? And and I think it gets convoluted. And then the adjust pieces, that's even later on. Okay, what are those changes, and then how can we make it better? So that's how it hit me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we're on the same page, girl. Yeah. Like the reason I want to have these conversations is because you use the perfect word. It gets all convoluted, right? For me, it's like, let's just draw some straight, hard lines. Guidelines, right? Not like make or break, you're going to die if you use the wrong word, but guidelines within our thinking to frame the types of communications that we're having, so that they deliver with efficacy, right? Because where do we lose traction? In the exchange of and receiving of information. So we're going to dive into it. I'm going to give a shout out to, we got Mr. Ernest, that's my brother, coming in from Thundercats, coming in from his home. What's up, bro? And poor Lance hasn't made it through yet, but everybody can see him.
We love you, Lance.
We love you, Lance. And then Joseph dropped the reinforcing comment, right? Like, there's going to be some funkiness in the chat, y'all. I appreciate y'all being here. And ultimately, above all, let's connect and empower the community.
Yes.
And so Joseph, you need to be following Joseph if you're not following him.
Boom, because he's like, I mean, like he brings it.
He does. He sure as hell does.
Yes.
If y'all want to see that energy, y'all can go to the decentralized conference. He's the last 30 minutes, and they were fire. We were running on his energy there. Mr. L.R. Whedon, what's up?
Good morning. Got to talk to him yesterday on my drive home.
Oh, I'm just that's
He's
it.
got a lot going on. He's got some.
LR, we're gonna have to have a conversation. Can't be talking to Jen without me. And then Gloria, what's up, girlfriend? She says, good morning, fam. Happy Saturday. So last time I'm gonna even say these stupid, I'm gonna try not to say these words. Steve's stirring it up. So we should get feedback on the feedback. Yes. Ha ha. All right. So I'm gonna pose this question to the Omniverse.
Yes.
Because I think this is, I'm not gonna say that. I've experienced this and I've done it. So I've been on both sides of the coin. And so here's the question. Let us know, have you ever been blindsided by your performance evaluation? And so a lot of us.
How does that play into this conversation?
Well, yeah, let's get it. So folks in the chat, let us know, like, have you ever been caught up like, where did that come from? I didn't know. I thought I was doing great the whole time. And so as it relates to this conversation, I've been in a situation where, I don't know if you know this, Jen, but I have a pretty healthy self-esteem, right? A pretty healthy ego.
Above average.
Okay, above average. I'll take that. And so I believe that when I'm out doing whatever I'm doing a hell of a job. Mm-hmm. Like I'm delivering world-class experiences all the time. And then, so this is back when I was like working, like had a regular job, or like the job, and I had supervisors and bosses that weren't me. And then we're sitting down for the annual review, right? Mm-hmm. Or quarterly review is usually the annual review that are never tied to compensation. But if I don't improve performance, there's a problem with the compensation, right? Like all that funkiness. And all of a sudden, I'm getting this information of where my performance was less than desirable. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking? Like, oh, here I'm thinking y'all going to have me a parade. And you're telling me that I have not been performing well for the very first time.
Yes.
Does that sound familiar, Jen?
No, I mean, it wasn't performance evaluation for me. It was just kind of like, you're going along, you're checking the boxes, you're doing the things that are part of your roles and responsibilities. And then you get into a conversation with someone and they start like calling out things. And you're just like, whoa, like, I wasn't even aware that was something going on, nor that it was bothering you to the degree that you are saying the things you're saying to me. And it's like, it never had come up in any previous conversation. And yet at that point, it was just like, this, and it completely like it beat me down for sure.
Like out of nowhere.
Yes.
Yeah. So now, so in that conversation, Jen, how did you address that? Like you're coming at me throwing punches from all over the place for the very first time. How did you handle that?
For me, again, part of it, it was early on in my career, I probably would have dealt with it in a different way. Yeah, I've grown a little bit in our interactions and the things that we've done. When they finished, and again, I was a little emotional, probably a lot emotional. I said, thank you. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you sharing that with me because I've not heard that before. And then I said, I would like for us to revisit this in a place where I'm not so very emotional right now, because I don't know if I would be able to receive or contribute to the conversation. And then I needed to end the conversation. So for me, that was, I acknowledged it, and then I just asked if we could revisit the conversation another time.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question for the Omniverse as well. We got some folks sharing their experience about being blindsided with their performance conversations. So, but here's the question. Is it okay to be emotional when you receive stinky news that you were not expecting, that is contrary to everything you believed?
I don't know. I just know it was not anything I could control.
Yeah. I love that answer, Jen, because that's truth, right? The vulnerability in that is absolutely. Why? Because we're human, right? Like I can't expect anybody to love my critical feedback or my style of delivery. Like that is an unrealistic expectation. And as a supervisor, it took me a long time to like come to terms with that because I'd be sitting people down. Hell, here's a painful example. Terminating somebody. That ain't fun. Like it don't matter how horrible they are. Terminating somebody, I know that I'm affecting their family, I'm affecting their self-esteem, their mental wellness. Like it's not okay,
Right.
but I had to do it. And as I'm firing this person, I'm explaining to them how difficult it is for me to let them go. And I'm explaining to them that this is not a personal thing, that this, like, hell yes, it's personal, dummy. You know, and so it took me several iterations of, doing write-ups and performance improvement plans and all these things to understand and give people grace so that they could process, they could feel whatever you need to feel, because it is absolutely okay because you're a human being. I'm going to put my robot transaction mode on and do my job as much as I don't like it. But in summary is it's okay to have those feelings. Like it's natural to have the feelings. And the fact that you said, thank you, time out, because I need to go process, that's like OG level. And so if they're like, in terms of a takeaway, folks, that's a damn takeaway. What do you think, Jen?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But and what after the fact, because obviously it was not something I was prepared for. I reacted, my emotionally reacted. I asked for and then after the follow-up conversations, it was they may have not been in a very good place. And so they were giving me something again where they were in that moment, and I could have reacted a different way. And what the repercussions could have been later could have really been negative for me. If I would have argued or defended or tried to, I mean, in that moment. And again, I didn't know it then, but after the fact, that even that person coming up later and having a conversation with me, wherever they were in that moment, by me being able to just acknowledge it and thank them and then ask for time, it ended up not being as escalated as maybe it was in that conversation. And I could have escalated it because I am really good. You knew this, mainly in my own house, but I'm really good at reacting, not in a good way. Like something comes up and my gut reaction and the way that's just how I'm programmed.
Yep.
And so it could have gone a different direction.
Yeah.
And then because I dealt with the way I did and processed it and had the right conversations with people, it ended up being a very positive thing going forward. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, expect to be in an emotional state and give yourself some process time. So we got some good advice here. Let's see.
Hey, yes. What do they have? What do they say?
It says pausing for 6 seconds, lets things sink in and then come back to it. So you can get past that stage of shock, right? Because it is shock. Sometimes we need more than 6 seconds.
Yes, I needed like a couple days.
Right. Sarah says, yes, emotions are good. It's an invitation to explore why are we feeling that way? Because that's the important part. Like, why am I feeling this way? And I know Matt Oley and on Matt Oley and Adam's conversation on the Lean Builder, they talked about there's a space between stimulus and response, right? You get the feeling, you don't have to respond. You can leverage that space. I mean, you don't have to react. You can leverage the space to respond. And the best response is understand where that's coming from so that you don't compound the damn problem that you are actually living through. And crying specifically is good. It's a needed release of energy. Amen.
When I learned in that, it's kind of a weird what happened in that whole, so that happened and I needed to like separate from that very emotional conversation, but like life goes on. So I had another phone call like right after. And
Yeah.
so I could have gone like, I need to go in my own place and I need to get here and, and do this. Or I just like had to, okay, compartmentalize that, move on to the next one. Emotions can't be very compartmentalized. So I was
Right.
very raw going into the next conversation. And that conversation went so much deeper than it would have if I didn't have the previous conversation. So it allowed me to see that, again, yes, I needed to show up and be like, I am very much in a very emotional state right now. If we need to still have this conversation, I am here, but just know I may break down. I may have a different response to some things you're saying. And it ended up making that conversation, helping me connect to that person better. It was weird the way it happened. So
The gangsta. So back to the question, right? Have you ever been blindsided by your performance evaluation? We got a lot of comments.
Okay, let's go.
So right here we got, I think this is Christine saying, "Link sure have, especially when feedback was supposed to be regular." No, that's Amy.
Okay.
Regularly given. What do you think about that, Jen?
Well, and I mean, of course, it's like, yes, that's part of the process, but yeah, we got busy. Yeah, something else came up. And I'm going to say, and I'm going out on a limb here, that a lot of times when the stinky feedback comes and there should have been regular feedback, it's not, they didn't give you the stinky feedback along the way. Everything was fine. Something happened. And now this is the big thing that we're talking about. And they're making it something bigger, and it is. That's me, I think. And we run away from conflict. People in general, I'm going to say, because we have a lot of tribe members here that have leaned into a lot of things that make them feel yucky and maybe a little uncomfortable. But most people avoid conflict. And when you have to come to someone and maybe have a tough, uncomfortable conversation, it doesn't happen. There may be in a conversation and I didn't, you did this thing. And I think maybe there could have been a better way to do it. I mean, not saying that, you did it wrong, but I think that, maybe next time, like, and you could try this, leave. And Jesse's like, okay, like they didn't like it, but it wasn't horrible. And why would I change? Like, that conversation I feel is happening a lot because we don't want to go, Jesse, that sucked. Like, boy, your job is this and you did this. Like, how could you do that better? And then stay there and listen to the answer. Like that's a different conversation that, that could have been, maybe that, like, we just
have you ever thought about
yes.
No.
Yes.
I would have done that.
Right. And so, and again, that doesn't mean it's going to make that person feel warm and fuzzy, but like, that's okay.
Yes, 100%. So we got Mr. Heath Willis. What's up,
Good
Heath?
morning.
Good morning. Then James also shares, yes, blindsided. There was a lot of baggage brought in and things that could have been solved and discussed earlier. Okay. Took responsibility with the aspect that communication was broken. He knew it and didn't do anything about it. Here's another one. This reactive stuff. Yep. That performance evaluation was not proactive. It was all reactive. Didn't see it coming. Would have appreciated indicators so I could have done what was expected sooner. 100%. And so I want to, we talked a little bit about being in our feelings when receiving those performance conversations, or having those performance conversations, because you touched on it. The other side, like one, we talked about what it feels like when you find out like you weren't hitting the bar. Mm-hmm. The other is you brought up is me as the supervisor or team member or whatever that's building up little resentments, right? The death by a million cuts, until one day I lose my mind.
Yes.
Because you finally pissed me off so much that I'm going to let you know how horrible you are.
Right. And I am not in your brain. So I have no idea the 6 or 7 things that have irritated you or that have bothered you or that you had an issue with that were not communicated. I have no idea what all of those things are. And so this one thing that put you over the top, like, yeah, it may have been a big deal, but probably not as big as it is coming at me.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Well, so here's another. This kind of, I'm having flashbacks.
Okay.
You know, so at one point in my illustrious career, the joke was that I wallpapered my house with all the write-ups that I did for people at work. And there was truth. I didn't wallpaper the house, but I did a lot of like it was what I discovered is kind of what I'm talking about, right? Like I would wait and wait and wait until I got pissed off at somebody. And then I wanted to smash them or tardy, like all the things, right? Tardiness, low production, absenteeism, whatever, tolerate it. And then on their performance evaluation, I would hit them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay. And so, or when I was doing their performance evaluation, I would remember the one thing that really pissed me off. And if they pissed me off within the last 2 or 3 weeks, guess what their evaluation looked like? Right? We're human beings. And the reason I'm sharing this, because I did it. And so we need to do a better job. Like if we're waiting until the annual evaluation or even the quarterly evaluation, which just, systematically, that doesn't sound bad. But if that's the only time we're going to have the courage to have real performance conversations, we're missing the mark. Like Steve Martin shares, true emotional response story, me, the manager. We're not talking about you. We're talking about your performance. Me, huh? Like bullshit. Yeah, we are talking about me. Like we try to sterilize the situation to avoid the conflict, to avoid the discomfort. And all it does is compound it. Right. And so, you know where I stand on this conflict idea, Jennifer Lacy.
I do.
And so, my thought is you play basketball.
Yes.
Right. Do you have to wait till the middle of the season to find out what skills you need to build?
No, and I've been both sides. So I've been a coach and I've been a player.
Okay, let's talk.
So again, I mean, like you go, and it's sports. Like we'll just do sports in general because there's people that have played different sports. Like we have preseason, and you're kind of building your foundation. You're doing the things every day. I don't think as a player nor as a coach, I've set the stage on here's the practice, and we're going to do the same practice every day preseason, and then we're going to make adjustment, and then every day during the season, the practice stays the same. Like it's you watch the game, you're watching the tapes, you're going back and looking at individual players, and then you're going, okay, this one needs to work on this one needs to work on that. As a player, it's looking at it going, I've got to put in extra hours here before the practice. So that's even over and beyond. Like it's allowing me to have some of that like that ownership and that autonomy of hey, here's a thing. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to improve? But also as the coach or the manager or the supervisor, it's also my job to along the way, like, okay, what are those iterations? What are those things that are going to help build that skill? And I think sometimes when we go to attack a skill or we attack something somebody's not doing, I don't think we stop and do any, okay, I'm going to own this myself. I don't think we do a lot of self-reflection on how did I help them get to that point, or how did I hurt the process to where that's where they ended up? I don't think we think about those things.
I agree. Like how did we contribute? Right. It's easy to point and assign, like assigning blame is the easiest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Taking ownership for our contribution in the matter is 100% the game, right? Like, I used to, back to the kind of the write-ups that I would do. I'll do them all the time. And it was so easy because it was PPE compliance, like the highest frequency of violations, PPE compliance, starting out, like being at work on time, and cell phone usage. Right. And so at this point, I was responsible for the business unit and all the labor. And what I would do, I'd be in all the meetings and I'd hear our foreman complain about person X all the time. Mm-hmm. And then I'd hear the superintendent complain about person X all the time. And then we do performance evaluations and they would get 5 stars. And then come next month, man, that guy's been here. He shouldn't be here. He's not carrying his own weight. And I'm like, time out, baby. Because here you are puffing him up, talking about how great he is because you're a chicken. And you're not helping that individual.
Mhm.
But he pissed you off yesterday. So now you want to cut his throat. And like, we really like, that's not okay. So what I do? I had templates filled out for the easy ones, right? The PPE non-compliance, the tardiness in attendance, and the cell phone usage. And what I would do, I would listen like, okay, you complained about him once, you get a pass. In my book, it was a strike. You're the leader. You haven't done your job as the manager. Second time I heard the complaints, like, okay, hey, Jennifer, I need you to go and have the conversation with this person and let them know that what they're doing is unacceptable. Here is the template, fill in their name, put the details, have the conversation, document it so they know that this is a serious thing. Okay. Hear him complain again, like, hey, man, I never saw the thing. You never get. Well, I talked to him. Did it work? Because you're complaining about it again. Well, it's just, like, okay, here's the deal. This is strike 3 now, right? You got 2 strikes. You're up to bat. This is your last one. I can go out there and do the write-up. Really? Like, yeah, but this time I'm going to do 2 write-ups. One for the person for their behavior, the other one for you for failing to follow direction and to have the performance conversation. Do you think people liked me?
No.
But so actually, let me ask this. What do y'all think about that type of behavior that I was doing? Was it positive? Was it negative? Was it constructive? What do you think, Jen?
I think it was pushing people in a way that they were already struggling.
Yes.
And so when you were talking through that, it made me think about, yes, we're talking about that blindsided conversation, the one where you were blindsided, you received it that way, or the person that came in. And I'm going to tell you out there, we're not saying much about this, but yes, were you blindsided? How many times have you blindsided people? So like, I like think about how many times you've gone into a conversation and the person, I mean, most people, like, they know if they're kind of like, lazy, or they kind of know those things. Maybe someone's not called it out before, they've kind of skated through, whatever that is. And then you've come in and have a conversation with them, and genuinely they were just like, oh, like, dang, I didn't know that. So think about both sides, because I think this conversation is not just about, we've got to be able to show up and have conflict. We've got to be able to receive. We've got to be able to do this along the way. But I think we also have to talk about it goes both ways. And so if we're coming in and we're letting things build up, and then we come in and we attack somebody, and we come in and we give them all this information in one spot that is got us mad, angry, irritated, frustrated, whatever it is, like, first of all, that's BS. Like, that shouldn't happen. But at any point, once we've done that and we realize, like, okay, I could probably do better, do we turn around and ask that person how we could do better? Because I mean, again, we're owning that we've probably made some mistakes, and we've even received like less than probably the best information at one time. At any point, did we turn around and go, hey, I know I appreciate you sharing this with me, but this would have helped, or this is where this could help me do better. Like, because some of that we have to own. Yes, we're receiving it, and yes, it's probably not the best way to do it from a supervisor's position. But also, if we're the receiver of that, like, I'm not saying push back and fight it and get defensive, because that is not at all. We've learned that is not any way to receive feedback. But do we turn around and go and try to help the conversation and try to help the other person be able to grow and learn? Because going back to what you asked, you as that supervisor that kind of tasked that person to do something, he kind of halfway did it, and then now you're coming in and not only going to deal with this person that never really was dealt with anyway, but also dealing with the person that struggled to provide him feedback. Like, did you get any feedback from any of that?
Oh, I did. I did. So most of the time, I'm gonna like, and it's crazy. This is why it's like, oh, that works. I'll just keep doing it. Most of the time, when I say most of the time, 9 out of 10 times, we would discover something important. So if it was an attendance thing, it was very rare on the phone thing. If it was an attendance thing, we would discover the family car, they have 2 cars, one broke down. And so now they're, kids and wife has to go to work, oh, okay, what can we do in terms okay, come in at 7:30, but be here by 7:30, and we'll figure out how to make up that 30 minutes every day somehow, some way. Like we were able to learn, oh, there's a real life situation that we can help with. But because we weren't having the conversation, we were just demonizing that person's behavior. In other cases, they would say man, you're right. Thank you for bringing it up and not talking to everybody, talking about it to everybody without telling me. And it's yeah, well, he has been, but okay, good. So that conversation going to that point.
Having the real conversation didn't completely make them jump and leave and never come back?
Yes. Yeah. There was one, my favorite one, which was not like that. The guy took the write-up from me, crumbled it up, threw it on the floor, and stomped on it. And this was directly after he told me, I've been here 12 years and I've never been written up. And I said, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have been. And he got pissed. I said, okay. So I didn't get upset. I picked up the paper, kind of ironed it out and started writing, refused to sign. I did my job. He can go have his feelings and we're going to continue forward. He came back. He's like, give me that stupid thing. No, you can't say. And we were buddies. We were friends outside of this. And afterwards, he's like, man, I've been slacking. I hate it. I'm signing it. But shit, you're right. So my point, the feedback I got was that the supervisors that I put the heat on, they were irritated, but they're like, you know what? You're right. This is part of the reason why we have all these dysfunctional things going out on site is because we're not doing our job. I'm like, exactly. This is part of your job. Complaining about it is not your job. Taking action on it and providing them the insight and resources they need to meet the expectation is your job. It's not fun. That's why you're getting paid. And so I have the template. So little by little, people started building the confidence of okay, I just got to do this stinky part of my job. Now, Mr. Heath Willis, actually, back to kind of being blindsided with the performance reviews. Heath is saying, and agreed 100%. As an employee, we can't wait until the annual performance, set up a monthly one-on-one and get frequent feedback, right? That kind of touches on what you were saying.
Yep.
And I'm going to add to that, ask for precise things, be clear about what you want to learn about and what you want to improve on. And what I mean by that is something that I would say is, hey, I'm working on being more responsive, more timely on emails or about emails. How am I doing and what can I do to get that better? Because I was notoriously horrible at it and I still am. And they're instead of saying, hey, can you give me some feedback? Because then it's keep doing what you're doing. So be clear about the things you're trying to improve on, bring that to the table so that the person can inform you in the direction that you're working towards. What do you think, Jen?
Can I add to that? So yes, and remember that you may have things in your head and they may have things in their head that have not been communicated. So I'm going to throw uncommunicated expectations to you in a minute. I'm not there yet. But I would say if you do have some things that you specifically want to ask and you are the person, maybe the receiver of either you're talking to your supervisor, you're talking to your manager. I have learned, because I am a person that likes to ask questions and usually come in with all of my information, so I'm ready to go. They are not. And if I come in and I am asking a lot of questions and I am presenting information and then I'm just sitting there and waiting, they are automatically on the defensive.
Mhm.
And so I have learned that either I prep it ahead of time. Hey, I know we have a meeting and here's some stuff that I'm going to talk about, or I want to talk about in the meeting here ahead of time. Or when you come into the meeting, like let that be a, hey, here's some things that are important to me. Can we schedule a follow-up after you've had some time to look at it so that I can make sure that we're both on the same page? Not every time, but I'm telling you, sometimes we don't get what we want out of the meeting because they've been blindsided or they have not prepared. And it is just it's a defense mechanism because they are in a position of power. They are in a position where they need to have the answers. And so that normally the conversation will turn into something it didn't need to because they're just trying to find something to not look less than. That's a lot, but I just like allow space and time when you do come in and you want to maybe have a little conversation that's going to create a little conflict, or maybe a little bit of, hey, what's next? And what are those expectations? Because doing that allows that space to have some, to think a little bit. So anyway, recommendation, but I want to go back to you on that conversation and asking those specific questions because Jesse, how often are there uncommunicated expectations?
Ask all my exes, Jen. So I think it's my observation, like more precisely, most of the problems that I've ever had to deal with in my life with other human beings came from unsecured commitments and uncommunicated expectations. I did a poor job of communicating what I expected or wanted from the interaction, from the people, blah, blah, blah. I also made a statement, and just since nobody said pound sand, that's stupid, I made the assumption that they were committed to the idea that I put on the table. And so I'm going to say I'm not the only one that has that experience, right? Of getting frustrated and disappointed with people because they didn't do or say or follow through or whatever, because I never communicated the expectation. And so here's the telltale sign that you have failed, that I have failed to communicate my expectation and or secure a commitment. It's the word should. When I say they should have known, that should have been in by now, they should have called, that's my indicator. Like, but did I tell them to respond to me by 9 a.m. Friday? Did I secure a commitment for them to go and execute that thing in the time frame that I had in mind? Almost every time the answer is no. And so that's kind of what I want to put out there to the folks around this uncommunicated expectations. If you're using the word should after being disappointed by somebody, you played into that by not getting clear about the expectation or securing a commitment. What do you think about that?
Well, and you helped me a lot because I think in our minds, like we have a conversation with somebody, and then in our minds, like what the next step is, or what the feedback should be, or what the response should be. Like we've played all that out in our heads. But you've helped me when I call you and I'm complaining or frustrated with something. Your question to me is what did you ask for?
Yes.
And again, you threw it out a lot more earlier. Now I have to ask that to myself, but like I'm frustrated because somebody didn't respond to me on a text, an email, a conversation, and I'm talking to you about it, and you're like, well, but what did you ask for? And I go back and I'm like, I didn't ask for a dang thing. I'm just expecting them to give me what I need to be able to close this conversation, but I didn't ask for anything.
Yep.
And so, and like, we've all been in those places where somebody's venting, they're frustrated, they're all these things. What was the ask? And
that's a nice question.
We forget.
Well, like in preparation,
yes.
What is my ask?
Yes.
Because you know how dense I am, Jen. Like you'll say stuff and I'm like, okay, I heard words, but am I supposed to do something? What is this? And I do that because I know that I'm thick-headed on a lot of things. It doesn't like, okay, that was awesome conversation. When I understand that regular humans, like normal people that know how to function, will fill in the blanks. I don't know how to fill in the blanks. It's just like, oh, okay.
But
I get it
also,
all the time.
it convolutes things when we don't, when we're not clear on the ask, and then people just start. It's almost like giving responses to a problem or trying to fix a problem, and not having all the information. So we're throwing this out there. Oh, that's not going to work. We're throwing this out there. That's not going to work. Like we do that because we're not clear.
Yes.
And we're not clear because we don't really know what the ask is.
Correct.
And
On both sides. So there's responses. We got a lot of beautiful.
Okay. Adam, bring them in.
We got Audrey. She says it's the stories we tell ourselves, but that's not what is being communicated. Right?
We've gone through the whole story. We've closed the book. We're already gone. And then it's like someone brings something up and we're like, what do you mean? We already gone through the whole, we already know how it's supposed to end. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Tanya says, you mean expectations aren't obvious? Oh my God. You know what? Spend some time on TikTok. There's these gurus that talk about like the masculine communication and the feminine communicate. Oh, and I love it because my favorite, the most recent one I heard was like, if they don't X, find somebody else, right? Like if they don't open your door, find somebody else. If they don't blah, 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 find somebody else. It's like, how the hell are you supposed to know that that's important? You know? Now on opening doors, that's a thing that I've been brought up. That's what you do, but not everybody came up in that life. And now this is a really, really serious, intimate question, Jen.
Does we're losing your camera? Good thing. I'm so glad you have pants on today. Like that just scared me to death.
That was awesome. The fans, everybody almost got a free flash of the fans only content right there.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad you have the jersey on today. That's all I care about.
So Sarah says, do all your exes live in Texas? No, they do not all live in Texas, Sarah. But I do get my shots, so that's a good thing. Now, we got Sam Sinclair. What's up, Sam? Good morning. Man, we got a lot of stuff.
And I want a lot of comments and people and stuff. I see, yes.
Get back to like the hard-hitting stuff. Mr. Christopher, good day. How you doing, Christopher? Thanks for commenting. That's probably a blue heart. You already know what to do, folks.
Jump on it.
Yes. So back to like this question about the performance conversation. Mm-hmm. And what I'm going to say is that soft, hidden, veiled performance conversations is not feedback. It is a performance conversation. It is not time out, Jen. Hey, you know, that jump, the way you're taking your jump shot, you could really work on that. It's, girl, get your shit together or you're coming off. Somebody else is coming in. Am I wrong?
Yes, no, 100%.
And so the point I want to make is when we're in the execution phase of things, and I'm not talking, we talked a lot about performance evaluations that are like scheduled and quarterly and annually and this sort of thing, which in my opinion are just really good places for people to hide. Because they don't have to have the regular daily conversations about performance. They wait till after the fact and they give you feedback. Mike Kyman actually helped me elevate my game here. So first, Mike says, transparent feedback is the greatest gift that can be provided in the supervisor and team member relationship. Both ways, supervisor to team member and team member to supervisor. And so Mike and I have that type of relationship. He was my supervisor a bunch of times. And there was one time where there was a situation and I said, man, I got some feedback, but I didn't hit him with it until a few days, right? Because he was the boss. And, you know, just all that, those weird things like, hey, can I give you some feedback on the meeting the other day, XYZ? And he said, thank you, Jess. And from now on, I need you to tell me as soon as it happens. And I said, really? He's like, yeah. Like, I was like, okay, clarity, like in the meeting? He's like, no, like after the meeting, unless it's really bad. I was like, yeah, awesome. And so that was like, oh, yeah, because all the dynamics, everything that was happening kind of evaporates. We kind of forget as time goes by. And so the idea there was, if I tell him directly after, right, that he can connect and we can talk about some of the nuances so that we can adjust the behavior going forward and achieve the intended outcome. What do you think about that, Jen?
Okay, so it's a little bit different perspective, but it plays into that immediate feedback in the heat of the moment and right in the middle of when the work's happening. And so I'm going to take this home and I'm going to talk about this from a parent perspective.
Ooh.
Because everyone who's been on this show knows I am a work in progress like every single day when it comes to my two daughters. And so I think people can relate to this and then apply it to work. My brain is constantly continuous improvement. How can we make this better? How can we make this better? That is just how my brain works. And I see something being done and I'm like, ooh, but this could be better. And you could whatever. And I have learned that when my child is loading the dishwasher, because that is her job, and I am in there watching, at no point is that the time for me to correct how she's loading it. I'm just going to say, I'm going to own this, because not one time, not two times, not 10 times, not 20 times, when I give feedback in that moment, I have pissed her off. I'm lucky if she continues to load it. She's now irritated, and I've done nothing to help the situation. Versus she's loading it, maybe overloading it, which means the dishes are not going to probably get as clean as they need to. And I need to let her do it the way she thinks she needs to do it. Then when we get done and the dishes get done and I show her that this one didn't get clean, like, hey, maybe if next time we could not load it as full, like that I deal with every day. And it's making pancakes, it's cleaning the floor, it's making the dang bed, because of how I function, that I've had to like stop. And even though my brain wants to like spew out, I think this could be better. Like, it's helped me at home to, when I'm at work, let somebody be in the ditch tying rebar, let them finish.
Yes.
And when they get back, whether it's on video or whatever, like we can go back and look at, hey, there's a better way. Hey, there's waste here. Hey, there's a tool for that. Like, that's where all of this is hitting me right now, because I every day still have to go, Jennifer, just shut up. Just like let her finish it. That's not the way to do it. That's not the right way. It's going to end up being a disaster. Let her finish, like every day. Does that go back to what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, 100%. So again, we'll take it back to the basketball court, because I was a baller. Like,
I cannot wait for us to have video of this conversation when we play against each other.
The tips and pointers that I'm screaming at, yelling at you while you're in motion.
You're lucky if I don't take the ball and turn and throw it at you.
Right.
And I absolutely will not make the shot.
Right. Like that is not helpful. So there's a timing element. And I think what you're bringing to the table is helping me see is like, there's got to be some kind of time. And kind of using Mike's example and the example you just gave, like, okay, like let's shorten the time as much as possible, but not so much that it's invasive and disruptive. Because at some point it becomes solutionizing and increases the negative outcome. So there's a time thing, what that actual time is. Now, I got some points in here that I'm going to bring up and maybe stir it up. And shit, man, it's already 9. Jeez.
I know. This one I didn't even know we were going to talk about. Now we can't even get everything in.
It's amazing. I love, man, the tribe brings some good. So Mr. Robert White, thank you. So Robert was on the decentralized conference all night Thursday, and he's back again. He says, I feel that the value of performance evaluations have to be the heartbeat from top down. Many times it's just clicking an HR box. That ain't okay. So I'm going to add on that. I'm going to pile up. Jeremy says he sees that a lot of supervisors are hesitant to be real on performance evals because they don't want to affect the employee's money. That's, agreed. If the evals were framed as professional growth and not directly tied to money, I think the site supers would feel more free to be real. And here's where I don't agree with the not tied to money thing, because it is tied to money. It is tied to promotions. It is tied to professional growth. Now, the official quarterly, annually thing in Jesse Land, let's make it very clear and simple that this is tied to your income. to your compensation, whatever that is. The problem is we don't have any freaking conversations with the people about their performance until those moments
all the other days of the year. Yes.
And we have how many opportunities to help people understand what they're doing that is exceptional and what they're doing that is less than exceptional.
Yes.
Those are the conversations that don't need to be tied to money.
Yes.
And then when we have the regular ones, it's tied to money. That's my perspective on it. Because why? Why are all of these things important? Because we're softies. Because how do you feel about conflict? What do you think, Jen?
No, and you're right. And like it's simple, and I don't know why we're complicating it. That yes, having a tough conversation about money and how it can impact their career and their titles and their growth and all of that, yes, it can be a little like not comfortable. But if you're having conversations with this person throughout all the time, hey, this, hey, that, hey, I like this, hey, have you worked on this? When you do bring that up in that conversation, it is not less uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You've like, remember, we talked about that back in January, and you said you were going to do this. And I know like I can see that you've made some progress, but we're not quite where, like, it's a much easier conversation. And it's not just throwing things over the fence or just like blindsiding them, but like, I didn't even know that was something I needed to work on.
Yes. Yes. And so having those conversations, right? Like
yes, those micro conversations.
This is a thing. We talked about this. It didn't happen.
Yes.
That's not cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, let's do the thing. And vice versa. Like we have so many, I'll just reiterate what you said. We have so many opportunities to communicate expectations, to secure commitments around performance.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do it in a way that it is super clear that it needs to change. Not, can I give you some feedback? Right? Like, Jen, this ain't cool.
Mm-hmm.
If you continue this behavior, I'm going to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
I get to make a choice. I can hear you and I can change what I'm doing, or I can discount what you say. And when we sit down in a meeting later, you can go, remember that conversation where I said this and you made no difference or growth in what we were talking about.
Yes.
This is what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
There's not a whole lot I can argue about.
It's simple. But like you said, we convolute it, we complicate it. So Sarah says, Jennifer, can you help her?
I'm still working on it. I still am not good at this, but I am at least aware. I think you have to be aware first.
Tanya, yes, girl, you're right. Running away from conflict makes it bigger. Weeds in the garden grow fast. So again, back to what I deem as appropriate communication about performance and behavior is direct, clear, because if not, that weed's going to continue to grow. It's going to get better. And the conflict, the resentment about the behavior, about the performance is going to continue to grow until it blows up.
So is conflict, and I want to pose, is conflict always negative?
No.
And again, most people, because they don't want to be in it because it's got this negative connotation. It's got like conflict, like with war and things like that. But like, how, like, can you talk through conflict not being a negative?
Yeah. And of course, I'm going to give you my perspective. For me, conflict is like attention. Any conflict and any attention is good in my book. Like, period. So does conflict make me uncomfortable? Yes. Do I feel some kind of way about, this I could be offensive, I could hurt the person. I don't want to belittle, diminish, or demean them, but I have to have this conversation because I care about them enough that I'm willing to lose them to help them be the person or the promise they're intended to be. So I have to go there to contribute in the manner I best contribute. Mm-hmm. It is uncomfortable, but every single time on the other side of that conflict, there's deeper connection, there's appreciation, there's clarity. And when I say clarity, sometimes it's extra clear that I just don't need to be spending time with that damn human being no more. Right. And so it's uncomfortable, but the value of going at conflict, embracing that uncomfortable thing that I'm trying to avoid far outweighs my little feelers about the damn thing. What do you think?
Well, more times than not, and we started with this, and I think is a good way for us to, as we start wrapping up this conversation, is we are, every one of us, human beings. And every time we have a conversation with another person, we are having a connection with another human being. And these human beings have life. They have struggles. They have things they're dealing with. They have things that we have no idea. I don't care. Even the person we live with, there's still things they're struggling with inside their heads that we may not be aware of. And so anytime some of these things escalate, conflict, whatever, like if we can go into that conversation, yes, this is going to be a little uncomfortable. Yes, someone may not receive this the right way. Whatever, we can come up with all these ideas. We are still dealing with another human being that has all the things in their head that I have in mind and probably more. And like, how do we go in and understand that this, we're trying to help, we're trying to support, we're trying to, provide a path, whatever those things, like what is the goal? And then understanding the other person across from us is also dealing with a lot of other things. And so how do we go in knowing it's going to add value and help them, other than we're trying to do something that when they leave, they're going to feel less than?
Yes, 100%. So I'm posting the link to the after party because I feel like we're going to get some good conversation. We want to hear from y'all, of course. Oh my God, I lost the comment. Well, so first let me bring up Miss Audrey. Audrey says, thank you for the advice.
Thank you for being here.
And Tanya says, yeah, girl, you're right. We could have a whole conversation about how to communicate expectations without coming across as condescending. And she wants in on that one. Woo, all right. We'll
after party.
Yeah, come to the after party, like for real, because we get into some good stuff in that bad boy. Where is it? Oh my God, I lost the comment. Oh well, sorry. It was genius, whatever it was. It was like the ultimate genius comment, and I lost it.
What was it about?
I don't remember. I just know it was like, oh, that's a good one. I need to come back to it. Well, here, I'm going to use Sam because this is a good feedback has to be delivered professionally, quick, and to the point. Don't repeat the issue over and over. Get to it and move on. Then follow up with them if they have attempted or corrected the issue. Be honest and receive feedback openly. 100%. Thank you for that. And so I guess I'm going to say it again for clarity. Well, two things I want to say. One is, folks, if I didn't get to bring your comment up here on the thing, there's some funkiness. I appreciate y'all like going in the thing. We've been doing a little bit of research to see, is it on the laptop? Is it the app? Is it the phone? Who knows? But after the fact, I'll be able to tell like, okay, how many comments came through that I wasn't able to see. So I appreciate y'all contributing to that. And for clarity, the point I want to make, the key point I want people to take away from this conversation is when you're in the heat of it, when it's in execution phase in performance, go do the thing. It is a mistake to be soft and cuddly and give people feedback. Give them some anchor language. And what I mean by anchor language is, Jennifer, we need to have this conversation because I'm losing confidence in you. How does that get your attention? We need to have this conversation because what you just did was outstanding, and we need to teach other people how to do this.
Yes. I want to be in that conversation.
That's the first one, right?
Even the first one, like for me, like that, I don't like that. So I need to know how to not be in that place with you. So that like, but you made me like, now I understand the reason why this is so important to talk about.
Yes. All right. Here's some more comments. Look, Steve. Steve, yeah, Steve, you're right. He's going to give me feedback on how I lost his genius comment. He did give one about the sixth S. So we'll do this and then we'll go to closing thoughts. Ian, what's up, big dog? Ian says, as painful as it might be able to give as the giver, or painful might be to hear feedback, it's a gift. And it might be exactly what they need to hear. So another little cheat code that I practice is hear me now, listen to me later. That helps me manage my expectations around people's performance, right? Like, or the way they receive my observation and let them know, like, you're up, your butt's on the line. Like, they can be mad. Mm-hmm. I trust them to be professionals and go and process that information and actually take it and apply it. Sarah says, amen, Jesus. I have learned to look at the end in mind when dealing head on with conflict. I ask myself the question, do I want resolution with this person? Because I value the relationship. Nice. Right? Like, absolutely. It is uncomfortable, but it's ultimately valuable. And she also says, people sugarcoat the feedback instead of being direct. And that, that's one thing here. I'm gonna give you some feedback. The feedback I owe you that you requested, Sarah. Sarah is supremely direct in a very professional and caring way. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that above all. Like, except for food. And she's also fed.
She's amazing at food too.
You can be direct and kind, but if you aren't direct, they may not understand that you are seeking improvement. So then here's the question. If I'm not direct, am I kind?
We can convince ourselves that it's kind because we're not being direct and we're not being mean and we're not being like aggressive, or like we convolute those words. Yes. Like, kind can be, in my mind, kind is real. Like, if I'm being real with you, I'm being kind. Like, and sometimes it doesn't always feel great, but I'm being kind because, like, I'm being direct. And that's they go to, like, to me, that's when you're being real and sharing that real talk. Like, you're being kind. You're not BSing it.
Yes, 100%. 100%. So something happened on my phone and I saw a bunch of people come through. Okay. And I'm coming up here. So again, folks, thank you for the help. We're going to figure out what the hell's going on. Anyways, closing thought, Jennifer Lacy.
Yeah. So we talked a lot today. And I think my closing thought, based on some of the comments, but also things we've talked about, is a challenge, because I love making challenges, is for both people. If you're in a supervisor position, or you're in a position to where you are meeting with the supervisor, or you are getting pulled into a conversation with the supervisor. Think about these two things. If you're in a supervisor position and you're going into a conversation with someone that reports to you, be clear on what am I asking for and what is the expectation. If you are going into a meeting with one of your supervisors, be willing to ask those questions. Okay, maybe it's clear, maybe it's not. So what I hear is, you are asking me this, or this is what you need from me. And what I hear is, the expectation going forward is this. And then see if that was the communication that they intended to give you. It will also allow you, when they're trying to sugarcoat something or maybe not being as direct, asking those questions back to them, they have to get clear.
Embrace the conflict. That's what I heard. Yes. So I got a couple points. One, Sarah, I think Angel Lavecchio, the curious idealist, says you don't should on people. And Sarah does a good job of, like, deciphering what that means, right? If you're shooting on them, change a few of those words, because that's really what's happening. And the second thing I want to repeat is, when there is a need for a conversation because the current behavior and performance could cause the relationship to change in a negative direction, use anchor, clear, even hard language so that people understand this is a real thing. Hell, use the word anchor. We need to have an anchoring conversation.
I like that.
you know me, I like to get people's attention. So it's like, look, you're going to be on the dead to me list. These things need to change. It's clear. Mm-hmm. So use the anchoring language. And also, well, add this. Don't let every performance conversation be about poor performance. Recognize the behaviors that you want, reinforce them, let people know the way you respond to me within an hour is amazing. And you don't have to do that all the time. Mm-hmm. Or when you show up and you come prepared to every meeting with thoughtful insight and contribute to the conversation, that brings tremendous value because you bring energy to the meeting. Thank you for doing that. So these performance conversations, kind of like you talked about, while they're loading the dishwasher, give them some space. But once they're done, as quickly as you can, have the conversation. Mm-hmm. Don't wait 6 weeks until you're pissed off and you get home late and the plane got delayed and your luggage got lost, and then give that observation, because it ain't going to come out good. Right?
Yes.
So that is it, folks. Go to the after party.
Yes. Go to the link.
And everywhere. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Tanya, come on, girl. We want to hear about this conflict thing. And we'll see you next time.
Yes. Thank you for being here.